Welcome to another episode of the Love and Reality Podcast. I am your host, Ricky Valero. On today's episode, we are going to continue our coverage of Temptation Island, Season 5, Episode 6. And let me tell you what, this episode was insane. Like, insane. We had the aftermath of the boys' bonfire, the aftermath of the girls' bonfire, and everything that fell in between. But a quick programming note here. At the end of this episode, I will be sharing with you guys a interview that I did with Sebastian, one of the singles on the show. We talked about what made him want to come on Temptation Island. We talked about his initial attraction to Katilin. And we finished it off by talking about a little bit of a tease of what's ahead for Sebastian. Um, as we talk about each and every week, this is me just running down my train of thought throughout this entire episode of Temptation Island. And let me tell you what, it was exciting. We are coming back from the guys at being at the bonfire. How will the guys react? It will be interesting to see the girls' bonfire, how they react to the guys' clips. We picked up right where we left off with Hall saying that Katilin isn't the right one for him. Mark said he is happy to see him figure this out. Hall said he hasn't known how to see this at home, but being there had helped him. Hall said it had made him feel like a new man. I had hoped for a little bit that these two were going to stay together. I don't see it happening now. The girls' bonfire is here. Katilin in her clip, it's Hall talking about something that was missing from Katilin and how 8 years finally led to him here and what he wants and what he needs. He's starting to see the bigger picture. She breaks down and cries, said, why would she come back to him and propose if this was how he's going to act? Maricela sees the clip of Christopher laying in a hammock, talking about laying in the hammock with Alexis, followed by him talking the following morning about how his dick got hard over just a conversation with her. She responds saying it was a relief to see that that he's getting what he wants and he needs because she can't give him what he needs apparently. She feels happier and growing closer to who she wants to be. Paris. Paris sees prom night and how Great wasn't holding back anymore. This was obviously after his response to seeing her and how she reacted to the bonfire, talking about how she wished she could have sucked you know what. We all remember that scene now. And we see him getting a little freaky under the covers. And her reaction is she's embarrassed and she doesn't know how she's going to respect him ever again. And then Mark flips the script and says to her, how do you think he felt for what he saw? And she said he might feel the same way. Paris breaks down and cries. Mark goes over and comforts her. I just love Mark. He's such a great host and a caring host. He's got a job to do, of course. However, what I do respect the most about what he does and what he brings to the table is the fact that he shows empathy for these individuals. Yes, it's a reality show. Yes, these people are going on there. Is it wild? Is it crazy? It's all of those things. But at the end of the day, he cares and he is empathetic to their every needs while also giving advice to the big picture. Vanessa, we get a clip of Christopher talking about how Vanessa said she lowered her standards to be with Christopher. He followed by saying he's lowered his, the fact is he lowered his standards to be with her. We see him making out heavily with Desiree, and Vanessa reacts as expected, not very happy at all. And she sees a 24-year-old boy that is not ready to be with someone. She said she's disappointed. And yeah, I don't understand why she got mad about the lowering the standards thing, considering she was the one that initially said it. All right, so my coverage here is going to go back and forth from the guys to the girls' villa, kind of breaking down everything that went down exactly as it transpired. Maricela is enjoying life with Christian, which leads to them getting it on, and the light goes right off. Hall screams out loud. Christopher just goes over and puts a blanket over the light, which is hilarious. At the girls' villa, Maricela and Christian are stretching in the morning, and things are definitely getting hot and heavy between those two. Caitlin said Hall would have to do some groveling to come back, but she feels dumb and is frustrated with him for ruining her life yet again. Vanessa is chatting it up with Bryce about her frustration with Roberto. Roberto over at the guys' villa is talking about how wants to see worse. He wanted to see worse, and how he loves her and wants to be with her, but also then makes out with Desiree, right? Roberto is with Desiree, right? I think it is. Sorry, guys. But yeah, so yeah, with Desiree. So he was talking about how he loved her, and then the flip side, he was making out 2 seconds later with Roberta. This whole entire thing is very funny and confusing. Christopher talks about how it's he celebrates it as the post day after being cheated on. Now we don't know really kind of all of what went down, but now we do, obviously, because we've seen her like really get it on. He says if she wants to be single, so be it, Maricela. He said she ain't coming crawling back, and she'll come crawling back, and he'll just say no. Great said he's freaking out because he's seen Paris cheating, and it hurts. Paris is on a date with Christian, and the two are trying to talk about some real stuff. He's trying to show him that he is a proper gentleman, versus Tajik, and is different as well. Nafisa and Great are on a date, and he said it's great that she was there for him. She comforted him, and decided to share that he was falling for her. And she feels the same way. It starts raining, and they have this tiny car. And I mean, this thing was a tiny car. Gray is a big built guy. And she was like, well, let's get inside the car to get out of the rain. They start to kiss, and clothes started coming off, and things got a little hot and heavy inside there. And let me tell you what, that's going to be 1000% on the next bonfire. We're back at the guys' villa where Christopher and Alexis are out on a date together. He appreciates her action and how she's been there for him. These two are getting closer and closer. I do think that I like what Christopher's done. He hasn't superly overly rushed things, but as he starts to see Maricela kind of open up herself, he's starting to open himself up more and more as well. Maricela and Christian are on a date, having a good time. They start making out again, which surprises nobody because that's all they do anymore. Caitlin is chatting with Mike and how it's easy to be open up with him. She talks about how she's starting to see the issues with her and Hall. Hall and Michaela are on their fourth date. She talks about how she thought it was a one in a million finding someone, and that she has a feeling that she has never felt before with a soulmate. It would be hard for her to leave this show and not be with him. Hall said he has feelings for her and doesn't see a future with Kaylin. Now they're talking kids, talking about building a future. He says when she's ready is when he's ready. Hall said he's been waiting to hear her kind of express her feelings, and it lit him up to hear how she felt. He said he went from feeling guilty to enjoying the moment. I don't know. Hall and Michaela outside this place, they might work. You know what I'm saying? They might actually work. Roberta is on a date with Desiree. These two are getting to know each other and opening up more and more. She said her feelings are getting stronger and stronger, and they make out. At the girls' villa, we have Vanessa and Bryce who are drinking. She's telling how much she appreciates him, with being patient and trying to be vulnerable to him. She's trying to feel close and connected in this moment. The two embrace. We don't really see anything happen, but who knows what the cameras didn't capture there. Caitlin is sitting down with Sebastian, talking about his feelings towards her. She wants to take him on a date and explore the physical attraction that she feels for him, even with Mike in the picture. Paris and Vanessa are chatting when she sees the answers in front of her eyes and is embarrassed by Great. Maricela and Christian are, I actually really like, I'm starting to really like these two. She just feels this release with claiming her power back. These two shower together, rubbing cream on each other, and God knows where that went. But for me, Maricela is somebody that has a lot of growth and come into her own on the show, and I really enjoyed that. And does that her exploring Christian mean there's a future? Not necessarily, but at the same time, it's nice to see her kind of open that floodgate a little bit there. It's been kind of nice to see. At the guys' villa, everyone is writing questions. Whatever the guys draw, they have to answer. Hall starts. Who's going to be the most viral for twerking? Hall said Michaela, so she twerks. The thesis says got pulled one out that said, "Who has the biggest dick?" And of course, she said, "Nope." She didn't say who we thought she'd say, and great, but she says Chris. The light goes off again, and things get weird. At the girls' villa, Caitlin is in a triangle with Sebastian and Mike. Mike is trying to talk to Paris about it, and then Paris goes and freaks out to Caitlin about how she needs to pick with one of the two guys. And then Caitlin talks to Mike, and Mike comes over and apologizes to her and says he wants her to explore things with Sebastian, but to just kind of tell him about it. And then he apologizes to her again. Then we see Vanessa on the couch laying there staring at the red light, staring at it. Very, very, very interesting. And then, of course, at the guys' villa, Roberto is talking to Desiree about her going to bed with him for the first time. These two start to make out, and boom, the light goes off. She climbs on top of him, and they're getting it on as the credits roll, and Vanessa is passed out on the couch, and the light is going off. This was an intense episode, like very intense episode, that had this incredible amount of drama that is just highlighting that I don't know if these couples are getting back together. Like, if I was a betting man, I would say none of them. The only one maybe was Vanessa and Roberto. And watching Roberto at the end of this episode with Desiree, that bonfire is going to be hot. All right, folks, before I transition over to the interview, then I sat down with Temptation Island season 5 single, Sebastian. I talked to him about what made him come on the show, what initially attracted him to Caitlin, what he thought about the love triangle, and then, of course, what he thought about the temptation light. He gives us some insight, some behind the scenes look at all of those things on this week's episode and just the last couple episodes as well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Hope you enjoy my interview with Sebastian.
I want to take the audiences back just a little bit. What made you want to come on to Temptation Island?
I was kind of just open to the whole experience. Like, if I knew, there's real couples, so I was like, maybe I fall in love and find some love, because that's really hard here in Miami to find something real. So I was like, maybe I have to go on a show and break up a couple, and that'll be what I need to find love. So that was just my whole mindset. I was very open for whatever would happen, like just open to the experience.
What initially attracted you to Caitlin?
I just liked the way that she carried herself. I thought at first it would have been Maricela, just because, we're both Hispanic, and I thought that would be like the safe, obvious answer for me. But my ex was also white, living, like, she lived in South Carolina, and I guess maybe that's just comfortable for me, or maybe I just like white girls. I don't know what it is, but it just felt like kind of the comfort zone for me, so I tend to gravitate towards her more.
Obviously, with the couples on the show, you already know the idea of that they are, with their significant other on the show before they kind of mix and mingle with the singles. Obviously, Caitlin's in a different situation as she's quote unquote engaged. Did that give you any hesitations before you before you kind of dive into trying to be in a relationship with her?
Yeah, I did. The reason why, like, just now to last night's episode, that I kind of was more reserved and I held back a lot was just because of that. Like, she was obviously engaged, and not only that, half the house was trying to get her attention as well, like from the single guys. So in my head, I was like, what's the point in pursuing something with somebody that might just go back to their future husband, because she seemed very, like, into it, obviously, and also competing with like 3-4 guys in the house. It's just like, to me, I was like, there's no, why am I just gonna risk getting hurt for no reason? But then towards the end, towards like now that it's happening, that I start flirting with her, I was just like, my mindset was just like, you know what, whatever, this is what I'm here for, to learn how to be vulnerable, because I was very closed off before, like in my real life. And I went to the island mostly to learn to like be vulnerable and let those guards down. So I just let that happen for myself.
Yeah, that makes plenty of sense. And then, of course, that competition is always fierce in this, because obviously you have these 4 women, you have all of these singles, so you're kind of battling it out for attention. Now, in this episode, the most recent episode that we saw, it's kind of like, between you and Michael that kind of have Katilin's eye. What's it like, kind of what we don't see? We're seeing an edited down version of it. What's it kind of like battling for one person's attention while you're on the island?
It's tough, but I'm used to doing this in real life here in Miami when we go out and stuff. So I'm used to the competition, and I'm used to guys being, a little bit jealous in a bad way. Because that's what happened here. Like, Mike started getting a little bit clingy, and I knew that it was all I had to do was just play my cards right, and it everything he was doing was only pushing her more towards me. And I think that's something that they didn't really show, because I know that in the last episode last night, I know what, like, how that night kind of like played out, and how it started, and they didn't really show most of how, like, it started, but he was being like really clingy and just like just like in a bad way, where it was only making her come more towards me because it wasn't a good look. So I knew that all I had to do was just be like, chill, laid back, just be me. I was already winning her over with everything I was doing, so I just had to like play it cool. But I was never worried. I knew that once I started giving my full attention and everything, that it wasn't going to be a competition.
I like it. I like the confidence, and you have to have it. You know what I mean? Because, like you said, the difference is you have a short window here. It's not like you have 6 months to pursue Katilin, to get her. You know what I mean? Like, you have a short window that you need to kind of go in and go in for the quote unquote kill, right?
100%. And I think that's the one regret I had, was not doing it from the beginning.
I like that. Of course, in this week's episode, Mark introduced us to the temptation light. How did that change the landscape of things on the island?
I always said that there was like 2 reactions you can have to it. The one that I had was, obviously, what happened was that now with the light, if it goes off, which it did first for us, it was only going to make the girls be more open to now, like, really experiencing, like, this whole island experience, and being more, just letting down the guards more, because obviously they don't know who is cheating on the other side. So that just made them more inclined to, like, explore us more, But there was also some people thinking, like, okay, now this light is just going to make them more reserved, which kind of happened with Vanessa for a little bit, like, in the beginning, because she found out, and she would sleep by the light, and she was, like, freaking out and stuff. So I guess there was, like, 2 reactions you can have to it. But even Vanessa after started, like, letting it go a little bit more and having more fun. So I think it was good. I think it made it more, like, fun for all of us, for the single guys, and I'm guessing the single girls in the other house.
Yeah, I thought the same thing, because I was like, man, I'm waiting for it to be introduced. We kind of got teased on it as the audience watching it, and then you see it kind of introduced, and you're like, oh, okay. So the girls kind of had one reactionary. The guys were like kind of whatever about it, but the girls, it was like, oh, well, now I'm going to behave. And then, like, obviously a little bit later, once it goes off, you're twisted to think, all right, no, well, you know what this means for you guys, the singles. You're like, all right, they're willing to ramp up their, hunt to try to maybe approach a relationship with you guys more, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's the mindset I had the whole time. When Mark was talking about it, in my head, I was like, oh my God, game on. Like, I can't wait. I thought whenever it would go off while he was talking about it, that it was going to be like they know who is the person exactly that was falling into temptation. So I thought that would have been really cool. But I guess just like having the what if, like you don't know, makes it a little bit better as well.
Yeah, because I mean, the ladies and the guys kind of have to wait till that bonfire, whenever that transpires between the light going off and the bonfire, figuring out whether or not they know who did what and where. So it's definitely interesting.
Exactly.
All right, so
Yeah.
before we go, Sebastian, I want to obviously I know you can't reveal anything. We're not asking you to reveal. Can you give us a little tease for what's ahead for the audiences for Sebastian? Just a little tease.
I guess all I can say is there will definitely be a lot more very spicy moments coming up now. So we just gotta wait on it.